Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Will Baggett with Executive Image, the industry leader in professional presence training, committed to helping you look the part and act the part to become the part. Visit us on the web at www.execimage.org.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Our guest today is Shawn Jones. Shawn is the Director of Athletics at Henderson State University. Greetings, Shawn. Thanks for joining us.
Ty, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, Shawn, you've been in a position, we're almost 6 years now in that Director of Athletics position there at Henderson State. You have almost 25 years in the industry. You were in external operations before you got the position in the chair. And this includes time as a play-by-play radio guy. And I guess that goes all the way back to high school, huh? Being on the radio.
You know, it was a lot of fun. I had the chance to start that in college and do high school games and work my way up, and eventually do some college games as well. And certainly it's a way to really be involved in the action and be a part of the team, so to speak. And I certainly enjoyed my time as a play-by-play guy. I don't miss the preparation that goes into those games, but certainly it was a lot of fun.
I imagine it keeps you in tune with the student athletes too, because you got to know who everybody is, what year they are, what they're doing for commentary, that kind of thing. So, excellent.
No doubt about it. And you know, it's one of those deals where you do a basketball game and you see everybody name with number, and with football it's the name, but they're still wearing a helmet, and you need to know the kids off the field and know their stories, and that's one of the great things, about being a play-by-play guy, is the chance, as you mentioned, to get to know the kids and the coaches and really be around it and be immersed in it. And certainly I think that experience has helped me a lot as an athletic director.
Yes, sir. Well, the reason I have you on today, recently Henderson State announced that it's merging or becoming a part of the Arkansas State University system. Of course, it'll be the second four-year institution under that umbrella, with Arkansas State University being the initial. And then there are two other two-year colleges under that umbrella. I wonder if you can give us a little bit about what that means to become a part or merge with the Arkansas State University system.
Well, prior to this summer, Ty, there were two systems in the state of Arkansas, still are, the University of Arkansas system, the Arkansas State University system, that are comprised each of 2- and 4-year institutions, and then 4 independent schools in the state that are not part of those systems. So we were one of those independent institutions. There were some situations that occurred at Henderson State that prompted the governor of Arkansas to ask Arkansas State University to provide some oversight, and I know I'll go through some of that a little bit more later as we visit, but had a chance then to start working with Arkansas State University's system staff, and they provided some oversight and direction, particularly in the financial areas, governmental relations areas, executive support as well. And so what we've learned is we've gone through this process now of becoming a part of their system is the benefits of that, I guess you'd say, second layer of oversight, and also strength in numbers, and the opportunities that you have when you're part of not just one institution of 3,600 students, but to have 7, 8 institutions together, and the economies of scale and efficiencies of business that brings together and brings to bear for your university can be a real positive. And I think we've started to see that as this process has quickly evolved beginning this past summer.
Right, it's interesting. I wonder, when you start talking about it, start seeing a solution on the horizon, what were your initial thoughts as an athletics director, and at what point did athletics become a part of that conversation?
Well, kind of as I mentioned earlier, Ty, I think you first have to go back to July when we had our leadership change, and Governor Hutchinson, the governor of the state of Arkansas, asked Dr. Chuck Welch, who's the chancellor of the ASU system, to assist Henderson through the transition, providing that support I mentioned. And I've known Dr. Welch for about 10 years, and I've been incredibly impressed with him personally and professionally since that time. And I think it's important to point out he had served as Henderson's president prior to becoming chancellor of the Arkansas State University system. So he understood our campus. He understood NCAA Division II athletics very well from his time here. And then also I've worked with their system vice president for governmental relations, Shane Broadway. He was the director of the Arkansas Department of Higher Education. So there was an incredible sense of comfort knowing that while Henderson had some short-term challenges that had to be met, that we were in very good hands in this interim period. And so then since that process, I've had a chance to work with other folks in their system, their CFO and Executive Vice President, Julie Bates. And as you start to work with these people, you really felt that ASU's system had Henderson's back and that they were really committed to helping our institution become stronger. And they're also, quite honestly, just great people to work with. Very professional, but fun to be around, hardworking, but don't take themselves too seriously, yet very serious when it comes to the business at hand. You know, just those people you click with. We have an acting president, Elaine Kneebone, who was appointed to that position in mid-July here on our campus. You know, she's done a tremendous job for all of us, being very open and transparent, no matter what position you're in on our campus, really from the minute when she was named the acting president in July. So she's kept everyone in the loop as the process has unfolded. And then I'm very fortunate to be a member of the executive team here, so I've had a seat at the table as this has evolved from, you know, agreeing to support our campus to seeing the positive impact that support has made to eventually our key decision makers seeing the value of joining the system. And then, of course, as you guys knew a couple weeks ago, ultimately our Board of Trustees has now made the recommendation to move towards joining the Arkansas State University system.
Right, and you talk about interim president changing leadership and also knowing the chancellor over the whole system. Talk to me about your communication from an athletic standpoint. Like, do you provide some input? Well, I think this obviously can help us from a resource standpoint and from a knowledge-based standpoint, but now you're talking to an interim president who sounds like she's pretty adept at what she's doing. Tell me about that whole, you're learning a new communication with someone new, you know, over the past 5 or 6 months, and then you're also talking about the big changes that are happening with the school as a whole.
Sure, it's a change in structure, no doubt. I mean, you go from reporting to a president who reports to a board, who, as we move through this interim process, you're reporting to a different president that is in essence working with, at this point, soon to report to a chancellor of a system who reports to a different board, yet our board is still intact. So, you know, communication, it's paramount, as we talk about so often in athletics and any business. It's communication. And, you know, Elaine Kneebone, our acting president, she's been our general counsel. I've worked with her very closely the 6 years I've been here. Great colleague, hard worker, loves this place, but has a real, you know, knowledge base of the institution, but also is again very open and transparent. And so keeping her in the loop, informing her of things that occur in athletics, although she has a strong background, you kind of alluded to it, just from being the general counsel and being a supporter and a fan and being around our kids, she knows it. But just explaining, you know, the NCAA things, the conference obligations that a president have to her. But the other thing Elaine has done has allowed me to, you know, communicate with our system chancellor, Dr. Welch and Julie Bates, you know, our executive vice president and CFO, and Shane Broadway, the VP for Government Relations, and others when we've needed to. You know, you go to a new president in this situation and say, hey, what about this? And sometimes Elaine says, this is what we should do. But sometimes she says, why don't you run that by Dr. Welch? And so really it just brings to bear more resources, you know, more folks who understand the industry, the business. And there have been some great examples where I've been able to get some things accomplished with Elaine and also with Dr. Welch and others, and just great advice and counsel on things that we can do, and also have had a chance to sit with all of them as a member of the executive team and explain who we are in athletics here at Henderson State right now, and our successes, our challenges, our opportunities, our vision. So it's been busy, but it's been positive because it's just allowed us to communicate with a lot of different people and explain who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it.
Yeah, and I'd imagine your background, external operations, resources, right, or something that you emphasized heavily when you were at Central Missouri. You come in as a director of athletics, resources, meaning not just financial, right? Resources across the board, knowledge, everything that you're talking about here in terms of what this is doing for Henderson State. Tell me about the strategic planning aspect of it, right? You had a plan probably going in over the last 4 or 5 years, and now this thing is kind of an inflection point. Tell me how this affects your strategic plan moving forward, or it benefits, challenges you think about as you move forward with this merge.
You know, I think it pairs with what I was discussing earlier, because we've got an additional level of experienced leadership now to discuss large-scale ideas and strategic priorities with, and these folks have a tremendous background in understanding athletics. Dr. Welch, he served as a Division II president right here at Henderson. He was the president here when we joined the Great American Conference, when the league was formed. But now for the last 8 years, he's been the chancellor of a system that includes an outstanding Division I program in the Sun Belt Conference at Arkansas State University. And his executive staff, of course, works closely to support that campus and that athletic department. And they've done some tremendous things in Jonesboro under the leadership of Terry Mahajer, their AD up there, who's done a tremendous job. So the system isn't so big that they have 9, 10 4-year schools competing in athletics. They have a Division I 4-year in A-State. They're going to have a Division II 4-year in Henderson State, and then they have a 2-year school that competes in junior college basketball in ASU Mid-South. So the system team is experienced at all levels, basically managing intercollegiate athletics, and as opposed to some systems where maybe you're just a page in the budget book and you don't even know the people. It's still very personal and direct support from those folks who understand what your specific athletic department brings to the table. And going back really a question ago, I've already seen an impact from a strategic planning standpoint. There's a couple things I'd love to tell you that we've got in the works. I just can't release them yet, but they involve a lot of planning. They involve, a lot of details where an AD needs support. And I've been able to utilize our resources on campus, but also go to the system and say, why don't you call this person? Here's someone I know. Why don't you bring this person in and talk to them? And it's been huge. And I'm just sitting here going through one of these strategic processes right now, and I'm thinking, man, I sure am glad to have these folks and their experience here to help me, because I've been able to bounce some big things off of them to support our 430 kids and our 14 programs. So I'm grateful to have that.
I guess you think about those things as you're thinking about planning. You and I probably need to get on the phone again and have another conversation once you can release those things so we can talk about your thought process in now that things are, for lack of a better word, enhanced, how you create and move forward with your strategic plan. I'll ask one more question for you here, Shawn, before we go. We talk about the impact on athletics and talk about the standing and how you think it will affect your standing, because now you talk about more resources in the Great American Conference and actually Division II as a whole.
If you look at higher education as a whole, in our case, regional public institutions of higher learning, of which there are 8 of us in the Great American Conference, there's a tremendous value in our mission. We're in the business of transforming lives, changing the trajectory of families' lives for generations to come. I went to a regional public institution, and at this one, we serve many first-generation college students. And oftentimes, regional publics are in underserved educational areas where I believe higher education, is needed the most. But these institutions are often also some of the most financially challenged due to infrastructure needs, fluctuations in enrollment. Some states have gone from state-supported to state-assisted to simply state-named. And we're fortunate in Arkansas to have outstanding support for higher education from our governor and legislature, because I think they really understand the value of higher education to those we serve. And that's really how ASU's system ended up here supporting us in the first place, because of the value of this institution to the state, knowing that we serve 67% first-generation college students. But as institutions continue to compete for support, I think the question I would ask is, would you rather be a small, independent regional public, or be the same important regional public operating with a higher degree of autonomy, but you're part of a larger system and the political strength that brings to bear in terms of decisions that are made that can have a positive effect across all corners of the state due to being part of a system that's across the entire state and not just in one corner. I can tell you from what I can see regarding the future of higher education for institutions like us, I would much rather be first and have the oversight, direction, and strength to be here for another 130 years than I would to be a holdout in what is an ever-challenging landscape. Especially when you consider we're still Henderson State, we're still the Reddies, we still have 430 student athletes competing and learning and growing across 14 sports, and we're joining a system made up of other outstanding institutions across the state serving students under a very talented leadership team that's on the same page. They're hardworking, and they have your institution's best interest in mind. Ty, it's nice when this particular fall, you have a big win, and I've always had those texts, congratulatory texts from campus leadership and from donors and from fans, but now you're getting an extra layer of those. You're getting texts from your colleagues and leaders in the system, and another thing, when you're talking about those needs and those challenges, it's encouraging to have experienced folks, say they understand this and they've been through this, versus maybe folks who haven't. So I think we're very fortunate to be headed in the direction that we're headed in as Henderson State, as Reddy's, and as part of the Arkansas State University system.
Yeah, it sounds like, Shawn, that this is just further helping you to further emphasize the mission of the Great American Conference, the mission of NCAA Division II, and of course the mission of Henderson State University. I think you guys will be very successful in this new setup, and I think you're probably the right person to lead them through it. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
Ty, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate what you do to cover college sports and really to bring a lot of important issues to industry leaders.
That was Shawn Jones. He's the Director of Athletics at Henderson State University. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.